Okay. Okay. Welcome to today's webinar, What's New with Volunteering? Now, I want to be completely honest, this is my first webinar and I do have some notes. So if I look like I'm reading, apologies, it's just because I don't want to miss anything out. So thanks for joining us. I'm Kelly Barnard and I'm the volunteer coordinator here, I'm the volunteer support officer here at Cheshire Wildlife Trust. And I'm fairly new. I joined the Trust back in July, and it's been quite a challenging time for volunteering, as you all know. So it's really nice to be able to talk to you today. I know some of you are long-standing volunteers with the Trust, and that some of you are recent recruits who may not have even had the opportunity to come out volunteering with us yet due to the current situation. So firstly, I want to thank you all. I want to thank you for being so patient and for your continued support. We genuinely couldn't do what we do without our volunteers. So thank you. I thought I would start with a bit of an overview of the Wildlife Trust as a whole, because when everybody's been kept apart, it's been quite easy to forget that connection and how everything fits together. So bear with me. The Wildlife Trust are a grassroots movement of people from a really wide range of backgrounds and all walks of life. So combined, we've got more than 850,000 members. We've got 38,000 volunteers, 2,000 staff, and 600 trustees. So we work on land and sea, from mountaintops to the seabed, from hidden valleys to city streets. We work in partnership to have a bigger impact for wildlife. So we work closely with schools, colleges, universities, with hundreds of farmers and landowners, with fishermen, divers, with thousands of companies, big and small, with community groups and other environmental organisations, with the lottery, charity trusts, foundations, with politicians from across the political spectrum. They're all a bit busy at the moment, with local and national governments and more. So each Wildlife Trust is an independent charity formed by people getting together to make a positive difference for wildlife and for future generations. So for more than a century, the Trust have been saving wildlife and wild places, and increasing people's awareness and understanding of the natural world and deepening people's relationship with it. So the Cheshire Wildlife Trust, that's us, is over 50 years old, and we're a charity receiving no government funding. We work for wildlife across Cheshire, so that covers 7 local authority areas. We manage around 40 nature reserves, have almost 15,000 members and over 500 volunteers. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a picture as to how each one of us is part of something much bigger and how each one of us plays our role. So 2020, it's been an unusual year, hasn't it? So COVID's presented many challenges as far as volunteering is concerned. It's been really tough having the job of telling you more than once that we're having to pause our activities. And believe me, we have missed you. But the safety of our volunteers is absolutely paramount. So in reality, this has meant that we've had far fewer opportunities this year, with smaller groups than usual, indoor projects still paused, and periods of time where we've had to stop volunteering altogether. You've all been super patient, and your continued support is much appreciated from both a trust point of view and from mine personally. So the good news is that despite all of this, when some of you have been able to get involved, you've still achieved wonderful things for nature. So together, we've safely completed more than 3,000 hours across the county, which I'm sure you'll agree, under the circumstances, is pretty amazing. So I'd like to share a glimpse of what that looks like. Hopefully for some of you, it'll be happy memories, and for others, give you a real idea of what you can be involved in. So if you just bear with me, I will. Here we go. So hopefully you can all see that. Is that the case? Can you see my screen? That's good. Okay. So volunteering in 2020. So here we have the Room to Grow volunteers who take care of the garden at Biddy Hall Farm, and some of the only volunteers that I've actually been lucky enough to meet. So they've adapted to socially distant gardening. Chumley Castle Estate and Gardens donated some bare-rooted insect-friendly plants for our nectar vase, and the volunteers planted them. So next year, the bees and butterflies can feast on the nectar. They also managed to grow some pretty impressive pumpkins, which were sold by appointment and socially distanced collection in the week running up to Halloween to raise money for the trust. So thank you to our Room to Grow volunteers. Across the county, invasive species control and general maintenance has still been required. So it's been taking place where possible in smaller socially distanced groups. So on these pictures here, you can see a group joining our living landscape officer Hannah for a spot of much needed tree felling and burning at Bagmere. That was sort of towards the autumn time. There's another group here back in July, braving the relentless rain to remove ragwort from Crown Farm Quarry. Although it's fantastic for pollinators, it was left as long as possible, but it's harmful to livestock when it's cut and dried, so it had to be removed, and I know it rained all day for them, so thank you. Slowing the flow. So the Slowing the Flow volunteers have turned their hands to safe and socially distant storm panel stuffing. There's lots of activities that were part of the project that they've not been able to do because it requires close contact, but this was okay. So they've been stuffing to help reduce runoff and slow down the flow of water in the hills. So woody material has been used to slow down the water as it moves through the channels and into the main river network. This in-channel woody material also provides valuable habitat for freshwater invertebrates such as shrimp and other larvae. Without the help of the volunteers, this work wouldn't have been possible. So you can see from the pictures what they've been up to. This year, meadow restoration has been something that we've been heavily investing in. So we've created 10 hectares of new wildflower meadow across the county, with, which has been sown with locally sourced seed, which was collected early in the year. And volunteers have been involved in various aspects of this process across the year. So you can see here that there's people raking the cut grass and sorting through the seeds, and as you can see, it was quite a labour of love. So without them, this would have been an impossible task. It was just too massive. So thank you. The restored meadows will be full of native wildflowers and grasses next year, offering a great source of food for our pollinating insects. And some of them are in reserves that are actually open to the public, and they are really, really beautiful when they're in full flower. So that's absolutely fantastic. It is important for me to say that these are just some of the amazing things that we've achieved this year, despite the fact that we've been having to reduce our numbers massively and having to say no far more than we would like to. But as we move forward, hopefully there'll be lots more for you to get involved in. And there is more that we'll say about that later, which is why I'm actually joined by James, who is our campaigns officer. So a little bit later on, James will share with you some exciting opportunities that we can get involved in. One really exciting thing that's happened this year is the release of our 10-year strategy, which sets out our aims and objectives right through till 2030. So this might seem like it's a long way off, but we've got big plans and we know time flies. We want to share this with you, which is like, we're really excited about it. We hope you are too. Don't worry, I'm not about to start reading my way through the strategy, because I'm sure you would all turn off. What we actually have is a really, really brilliant video, which will tell you everything you need to know. So once it's finished, we'll have a bit of a chat about how that links to volunteering and where volunteering fits into things. So fingers crossed technology is kind to us and the video plays now, but I hope you're all as excited as we are. Bear with us.
Hi, Hi, I'm Charlotte Harris, Chief Executive of Cheshire Wildlife Trust, and this is our strategy for a wilder Cheshire. We want to bring back wildlife for everyone, everywhere, and we urgently need your help. There are 3 ways we can bring wildlife back.
Hi, I'm Richard Walker, patron of the Cheshire Wildlife Trust. Wildlife is in crisis, so let's fight for wildlife's recovery. At least 30% of the UK's land and sea needs to be properly managed so that we can allow wildlife to return. Climate is in crisis. Let's make nature part of the solution. Resilient nature will help us combat climate change. We need more carbon locked up in the land and in the soils to help us fight climate change. And we are in crisis, so let's have more people on nature's side. We need everyone to be passionate about nature, and at least 1 in 4 people being part of the solution helping nature's recovery. So how are we going to do this? We don't have much time left, but it's not too late. Here's our 10-point plan to help bring nature back.
Point 1. Protect places where wildlife lives. I work largely with landowners in the wider countryside, not just on our nature reserves. I'm working with them to reduce the amount of pollution entering our watercourses. This impacts wildlife in the rivers, streams, and later in the sea. This nature recovery network, made up of water and water-related habitats, is better protected by us working in it. The landowners we work with are engaging and working to protect wildlife on their doorsteps.
Point 2, bring wildlife back to our land and sea. Beavers are native to the UK. They create dams and watercourses, which kind of slows the flow and it traps silt. For them, it's just so they can feed, but the knock-on effect is that downstream, the water basically has had time to drop its nutrients so that plants can feed higher up.
We are working to ensure that marine life in the Irish Sea can recover through a well-managed network of marine protected areas. We're also working to improve the sustainability of fisheries and developments at sea so that nature can thrive once more. Through our projects and campaigns, we will help people to feel more connected to the sea and inspired to take action to protect it.
Three, create a society that cares about nature. So I work with a team that helps connect people to nature. I work with those that aren't our natural audience from all walks of life to help them feel like they can access nature. This is in terms of creating wild spaces near them, as well as teaching people how to connect with nature so they're comfortable enough to access it.
Number 4, we're working with farmers so wildlife can thrive. At Cheshire Wildlife Trust we manage a suite of habitats throughout the county, and they're on nature reserves, and they're the last jewels in the crown of protected wildlife sites. However, that's not enough. Much of Cheshire countryside is farmed, and therefore if we're going to have a real impact for wildlife, we've got to be working with farmers to try and improve that and create a more permeable countryside for our wildlife.
Point 5. Embrace wildlife as our neighbour in our towns and cities. The way we're going to get more people engaging with wildlife is through our Nature Neighbourhoods initiative. This is all about putting wildlife back on the doorsteps of people so they can access it every day. We believe that wildlife shouldn't be a day trip, it shouldn't be something you just do at the weekend. It should be the kind of thing that you can walk out of your front door and go and experience. Every single person, every single day. Now we're going to do that through things like planting community orchards, woodlands, hedgerows and species-rich grasslands. That's really going to help more people to discover their local wildlife and take action for it. So we're going to do that through working with local authorities, friends of groups and local residents, giving them the tools they need to look after their wildlife.
Point 6. Grow our stores of natural carbon. Danes Moss is the largest and highest lowland raised bog in Cheshire, and it's a really precious site because it is amazing for storing carbon as well as being a haven for all sorts of different wildlife outside of Macclesfield. Danes Moss gets its name from a layer of sphagnum moss which runs across the top of the site. We've got 6 species of sphagnum on the site, And sphagnum is this amazing plant because it's got a wonderful capacity for storing water. It can hold up to 27 times its own weight in water, so it's amazing for sort of flood alleviation. It's really important we continue to look after lowland raised bogs such as Danes moss because they're so important in the fight against climate change. They have the capacity for storing up to 3 times more carbon than the equivalent area of woodland. So we really need to look after these sites in the future.
Point 7, building a network of people campaigning for nature. We encourage people to speak up for nature so that when we talk to our MPs and talk to our councils, we're speaking with the voice of hundreds and thousands of people and making sure that we have the influence and the backing we need to get the change we need for nature. We work with local community groups to make sure that they are empowered to make changes in their neighbourhood. We encourage individuals to make changes on their own. We give them the resources and the tools they need to make changes in their homes, in their gardens and in their local environment to make sure that nature has a space and is able to recover. We've written to every MP in the area to talk about the Environment Act, the Agriculture Bill, the Fisheries Bill, the planning reforms, HS2. We make sure that whenever there are big moments in our campaigns that we talk to our MPs and make sure they have the information they need to get the changes we need for nature.
Point number 8, make our rivers cleaner and healthier. So we're here at a site in the upper reaches of the Dean catchment in the Cheshire Pennine Fringe living landscape, and we've been working across these upper reaches over the past couple of years with landowners, stakeholders, water companies, environment agency alike to deliver interventions that help restore natural functions and processes in our river network. So here at this site, for example, we have installed a series of large body debris engineered log jams. And the way these work is, in times of high flow, they perform a flood alleviation measure. So water will back up behind this, it adds roughness to the water course. But also in conjunction with that, it provides fantastic habitat for local native wildlife. So behind these jams you'll get a leaf pack forming and invertebrates thrive in those leaf packs. You'll get more surface mixing and oxygenation of the water on the riffles. All that helps bolster the invertebrate population and therefore your fish populations, and everything else scales up through that coastal cascade. So this kind of work is really important to be able to restore our river networks at catchment scale.
Point 9, make decisions that give more to nature than they take away. Hi, I'm Rachel Giles, I'm Evidence and Planning Manager. I'm going to talk to you about making decisions that give more to nature than they take away. So our laws, our policies and planning system must be good for nature. New infrastructure or housing estates shouldn't put wild places under threat. And thoughtful development, and that means building nature and not against it, can create places where we want to live and work, and which we can share with wildlife. So we're going to use our expertise and experience to help shape national and local policy and legislation promoting a wilder Cheshire. So we'll champion biodiversity net gain, and we will collaborate with communities, planners, developers and local government so that every development gives more back to nature than it takes.
Point 10, collaborate with people who share our passion for wildlife. Over the past 2 summers I've been involved in a project on the Middle Dee catchment tackling invasive species. On this project we've engaged over 50 landowners, worked with volunteer community groups and worked with other organisations such as North Wales Wildlife Trust. Because invasive species can quickly take over large areas of land, working with other organisations and several different landowners has enabled us to successfully manage invasive species on a landscape scale. It's crucial now more than ever that we engage, enthuse and influence as many people as possible to deliver the best outcome we can for nature.
So why now? We've reached a tipping point. By 2030 we need to see nature recovering, wildlife returning and ecosystems restored. We can't wait, we can't defer, we've got to act now.
So we hope you enjoyed the video. Unfortunately, we don't have time in this webinar to work through every single point in the 10-point plan of the strategy in terms of volunteering, but there's one particular aspect that we'd really like to focus on. So the last point that was made, collaborate with people who share our passion for wildlife. I hope that when Jack said that, you all kind of nodded and went, yeah, that's me. And you'd be right. All of our volunteers share our passion, and we would be lost without you. But as this year has proven, sometimes circumstances can prevent you from joining us in large groups. I want to be clear, we've got no intention of stopping our group volunteering. Absolutely not. We want to continue as long as COVID allows, and then afterwards. As our patron Richard said, our aim is to get 1 in 4 people taking visible action for nature. In Cheshire, that equates to 650,000 people. We simply don't have the capacity to run that many volunteering groups, not even in a COVID restriction-free world. So with this in mind, we're looking for your help. I'm hoping that you can help us. And for this, we're going to use the Q&A on the webinar. So if you move your cursor over your screen and move to the bottom, there's a box that says Q&A. So if people aren't in a position where they can take part in volunteering days, how do you think we can help and support them to take visible action for nature in a different way? You're the very best people to ask because you're already taking visible action. So what I want you to do over the next couple of minutes, if that's okay, is put any suggestions you've got for how we can help people take visible action for nature besides volunteering days, and you can make as many suggestions as you like, and there aren't any wrong suggestions. So I just want you to have a bit of a think, put things in the chat box. You can start now, you don't have to wait for me to finish talking. In the Q&A box, sorry, not the chat box, in the Q&A box. And the reason for that is because the webinar is recording, and at the end we'll take all your suggestions and we'll be able to use them to help shape our strategy. So think about your friends, your neighbours, your families. Think about people who work full-time or who have young families. Consider people who live in urban areas, or those who perhaps don't drive and can't make it to a nature reserve. And we're also especially interested in your ideas for how we can encourage and work with young people to get them taking visible action every day, and what that action might be. So I'm totally open to all ideas. And like I said, there are no wrong suggestions. So please hit up the Q&A and tell me what you think. So we've been talking about it internally, and we've got lots of ideas of our own. But we know that you are the perfect people to ask, and there are far more of you than there are of us. So the more we ask and the more ideas we get, the better reach we'll have, and we'll get closer to that 1 in 4 people, which will take us to a tipping point of it becoming a movement and it becoming something that people do without thinking. So we've got some suggestions coming in. Let me have a look. Wow, that's good. Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. So we've got people saying that we could encourage active wildlife gardening across Cheshire, which is a brilliant idea because it's things people can do in their homes. And again, even in urban areas, we could do stuff with window boxes, things like that. I think we have some toolkits for things like that, don't we, James?
Yeah, I was going to say actually, so I run, I'll talk a bit about my role in a minute, but I run the gardening campaign. So we've got lots of resources on our website that can show people how to do wildlife friendly things at home. And I've started making some how-to videos. It's been a little bit delayed because of COVID this year, but hopefully there are going to be more next year. I've just finished up doing one for Christmas as well, so hopefully that'll come out after between the year.
That's great. So we're on the right track. We've got somebody suggesting that we work with youth groups and scouts and brownies and rainbows. I think that's a really good idea, isn't it? Definitely accessing young people like that and getting it to be so that nature is just part of everything that they experience every day, so that when they're adults it continues. Oh, that's a good idea. Somebody saying a radio station. so people could travelling to work can learn and hear while being busy. Oh, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Perhaps podcasts along the same line. We could give them information. Oh, that's a really, really good idea. Someone else saying work with local nature and landscape groups, people who are already interested. That's a good idea as well. Oh, local businesses. Yeah. Creating creating guides so that scouts and people can plan their own projects. That's really good. You're doing a fab job, guys. Thank you. Keep them coming. This is exactly what we wanted. I knew we were asking the right people. Anything people can do in their own gardens or working in communal areas. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, trying to do working parties at weekends. I am very aware that a lot of our volunteering days take part in the week, and I know that. So yeah, things happening at weekends, half-day sessions, perhaps evening sessions. Yeah. Ah, that's a really good idea. Connecting local people to each other so that they can come up with their own projects. Yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, what a brilliant idea. If you empty shop units on the high streets, it would be a good idea for the trust to take one in each town on a pop-up basis to coordinate ideas, initiatives, volunteering opportunities, etc. This is brilliant. Encouraging speaking with parish councils, village greens, wildlife friendly. Toolkits for somebody's daughter's school. Yep, toolkits for schools. These are absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to read them all out, obviously, because I could be here all day, but keep them coming. You don't have to stop just because we move on, because like I said, we will gather all these together and I will put them in. I'm going to send out a newsletter at the end of the webinar with a link to the recording so that you can share it with anyone who missed it or perhaps watch it back, and I'll gather everything together that everybody has said. We'll also use it internally to help when we're working on the strategy and we're moving forward with the ideas. We'll use this for that. So thank you. That's absolutely fantastic. As I mentioned earlier, there are lots of different people on this webinar. Like I said, long-standing volunteers, people who've been out with us for years and years and years, and people who are still looking forward to your first volunteering opportunity. So if it's okay, I'm just going to run a quick poll because we want to have a better idea of the split of people and how volunteering kind of fits into your life. So I'm just going to run a quick poll. It's only 4 questions. It just means that when we go away with the information, we've got a real idea of who attended and where those ideas came from. So, and it's all about improving the volunteering experience in the future. So there are 4 poll questions. You just have to click the answer. It's quite straightforward and it's really quick. So technology allowing, that will happen now. Okay. So please could you let me know if you're a regular volunteer or an occasional volunteer or someone who is new to volunteering. Brilliant. That's great. There's lots of people clicking. Thank you very much. Anybody else want to have their vote? It is anonymous. It's literally just for me so that I can take this away and see what the split was. Fairly even split actually, which is great. Okay, we'll go to the next question then. Okay. Okay, so do you fit your volunteering around a job or other volunteering commitments? So if you're volunteering with another organisation, if you can just let us know. And again, this ties into things like the weekend stuff and evening stuff and trying to understand the position that our volunteers are in really and how much time they have. Okay. I think we're about there. Same number of people voted as last time. Oh, more. Anyone else got a vote to have? Okay. Shall we move on to the next one? So this is an if because we're still talking. By no means is this decided, but if there was an opportunity, would you be interested in becoming an ambassador for Cheshire Wildlife Trust and sharing your knowledge and experience with others in the community? Wow. Okay, people are voting. Okay. And it's more about the fact that the concept of a bit of a super volunteer, so someone who comes along and picks up experience and learning and then takes that away and shares it with other people. And it's not for everybody, and that's absolutely fine as well. It was a case of we just wondered whether people would be interested in something like that, because there's only so many of us, there's lots more of you. Okay. Anyone else want to say? Oh, it's a really even split. That's interesting. Okie dokie. And we'll move on to the last question. So if we were to implement ambassadors or super volunteers, where do you think they would have the most impact? So working within their own local neighbourhoods, going to places of work, so to companies, or working with like your own group of family and friends, or going into schools and local colleges, where do you think they would have the biggest impact? Where do you think that would work best? Okay. Okay. We're nearly there, I think. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. That's great. Thank you for indulging me. It will definitely make it easier to understand where all the information is coming. Okay. Can we take that one down? Okay, right. As many of you will have seen on the volunteering pages on the website, and because many of you have emailed me, we stopped recruiting for almost all of our ongoing projects this year, just because of sheer numbers of people that wanted to be involved and the restrictions on how many people we could actually take out. But over the next week or so, I'm going to be working really hard to update pages on the website so that you can see all the opportunities and projects that you are able to get involved in after Christmas. We've got some much clearer guidance from the government now as to where volunteering sits. But obviously we're going to continue to work within the government guidelines to keep everybody safe. So keep an eye out for updates on the pages and in newsletters from me, especially those of you who take part or want to take part in opportunities that involve being indoors. At the moment, they are still paused. And that isn't a decision that's been taken lightly, and I understand that so many of you are really missing your volunteering and that it's frustrating that you're not allowed to come back. But at the moment, we're still working on skeleton staff here. I don't know if you can see in James's background, but he's actually at home today. Most of the staff are still working from home where possible, and it's absolutely paramount that we keep everybody safe. So the indoor stuff is still going to be paused. Keep watching, and as guidance changes and as the situation changes, we will keep changing things as quickly and as safely as we can. But I do have a little taster for you now of the things that are opening up after Christmas. So I just wanted to share a couple of things and give you a little bit of hope, really, that we are still going to be running volunteering stuff. So some of you will know, as we said earlier, we have up to 40 nature reserves, around 40 nature reserves, and some of them have volunteer wardens who look after them. So as well as our team here, we have volunteers. So the role kind of involves people going out on a regular basis, having a wander through the nature reserve, doing regular checks on things like fencing and gates and paths and boardwalks, checking no trees have fallen down, litter picking. Litter picking is a huge one. And then they report back any bigger issues that the team here need to go out and address. So we're hoping to roll this out across all of our reserves. Currently we have it in place for some of the reserves, but not all. So we will be looking for more people to join this army of volunteer wardens. And it's great because it's something you can do alone or with your family, or impairs socially distance. So it's not something that coronavirus is necessarily going to have an impact on, which is absolutely brilliant as far as we're concerned. And it means that people can get out and about. Now, that doesn't mean you have to wait for these roles. If you're out and about in a nature reserve, take a bag and a litter picker anytime you want. And if you see anything, then email me. Email the volunteering email address. If there's any issues or broken fencing or anything that you think we need to know, then that's fine. But that opportunity will be posted soon. There's a large-scale tree planting project beginning in the new year, which we're really excited about, and we're going to need some volunteers to help with that. At this point, I don't really have any details of what that's going to look like exactly. Predominantly, it might be towards the east of the county. As soon as I do know, I'll share those details. If you live in the Congleton area, there is the opportunity to get involved with the Congleton Living Landscape Group. Now, they meet every Tuesday, I think, and they are definitely looking to recruit new members. And it's a group that does varied work in that area weekly, depending on the season, depending on what's required, like things like maintenance, and they're led by a team member from here. So that one will definitely be live in the next couple of days. And the Wirral. The Wirral are always looking for volunteers for the Cleaver Heath and the New Ferry Butterfly Park, and I believe that coming fairly soon they're going to be looking for a fill a fundraising position. So again, not entirely sure what that entails yet, but please keep your eyes open, and as soon as I've got the details I will let you know. So as we said earlier, James, our campaigns officer, is here with us. And he has a couple of really, really exciting opportunities that are brand new and across the county. So I'm going to hand you over to James because he can tell you far more about them than I can. Thanks, James.
Yeah, so basically campaigning is still fairly newish to our trust. So I only started last year, and that was on the back of like a big national campaign that we launched called Wilder Futures. And that was all about really trying to influence change at a national level through our MPs. And basically, we've got an Environment Act that's coming through Parliament at the moment, and we've spent a lot of the last year or so really trying to push for stronger environmental laws and policy to really sort of help sort of support nature's recovery. And in a way, we're sort of moving on from that now, because that's all sort of, it's happening, it's in the works, and it's probably going to go through very soon. And that means we've got the opportunity to start really reinventing campaigns in a way, and sort of really making them local, so they're touching upon local communities and people and engaging as many people as possible. So my role is kind of about two things really. It's about inspiring mass public action. So I've noticed that a few people are already touching on things that I sort of do. So gardening, something that we do sort of encourage people to do at home, wildlife-friendly gardening. And then the other sort of side of my job is to meet with our political leaders, so that's our councils and our MPs, and ask them to support policy and laws that are going to benefit wildlife. And as I sort of said in the strategy video earlier, we've done some really big things, like from HS2 to the recent planning white paper reforms, and also like the Environment Bill and things like that. So we do often respond to some big issues. And what Kelly said earlier is really so important. We need 1 in 4 people taking action for nature. And I think through campaigns, this is probably one of the best ways people can do it, because it's about giving nature a voice and really making sure that people are speaking up for nature, that they're encouraging other people to take action. So Kelly said 650,000 people we need really to mobilise in Cheshire. And you as volunteers are really key for that, because you are our most dedicated, sort of loyal supporters who are really engaged with us, and you are key essentially in helping getting our message out to as many people as possible. So with campaigns, we're sort of changing slightly, obviously, in the post-COVID world, that we know that we can't go out to speak to many people face to face. So we really want to sort of increase our digital campaigning presence in a way. And that's really about people spreading our message far and wide through as many channels as possible. So what we're going to be looking for is lots of campaigning champions, and this is something that everyone can get involved in. And it's about, when you see our messages pop up on social media, sharing them to different people, sharing them to community groups, and just telling as many people as possible. Because often with our campaigns, we have like a big ask attached to them, where we're asking for like a particular change from a council or an MP, asking us for a specific law. And we need volume of people to show that we have influence and public backing, really to sort of put the pressure on those people to make sure we get those changes. So we're looking for this sort of network of campaigning champions who can sort of build up as many contacts as possible, and really get the message out there. And even if you're perhaps not as clued up on social media, you've still a role to play perhaps in that as well, where you can tell people face to face, your friends that you know, even if it's on the phone, send an email. It really doesn't matter. It's just about trying to get to as many of those 650,000 people as possible. So that's sort of a very sort of general role we're looking for from campaigns. But beyond that, there are two specific roles really that I am looking for as well to help support me with our campaigning work. So the first role is going to be a campaigns researcher. So I'm going to be looking for two people who can help me sort of integrate with community groups and help me sort of establish relationships with them, so that when I've got a campaign that I want to push, we can go to community groups and say, hey, look, we've got this, can you help us, can you support us, are you willing to give us your backing as well, or are you interested in getting involved and perhaps giving stories for our campaigns that we can use. So that person's role is really going to be about networking, finding new contacts, and really making sure that our local communities are integrated with the work we are doing, and we're all coming from the same point of view. So there's that role. The other role then is perhaps a more face-to-face role. It might not be for the moment, but it's our MP champions. So these people are going to be the ones who go to our MPs in person and attend their surgeries and tell them about our campaigning work, or even just about the organisation in general. So we have 24 MPs across our area, which is a heck of a lot compared to most trusts. So I spend a lot of time trying to meet with these, but obviously if I even did 2 a month, I'd still only just meet them once a year. So I can't get around them as much as I'd like. And that's really where you can come in as well. So we want a sort of a representative in every constituency who can meet with our MP maybe every sort of 3 months or so, quarterly. So we're getting that regular touch point, because research has shown that you can send emails, yes, you can send letters, but by far the most effective way of influencing MP is to see them face to face and explain in person what you want them to do and why you are passionate about it as well. So what's going to happen is we're going to probably just start off with recruit a small number of those, because 24 people at once, that's a big task to perhaps manage at the start. So I think for the starting point, I'd like anyone who's in the sort of South Manchester area, so Stockport, Trafford or Tameside, because at the moment we don't really speak very much to our Manchester MPs because we're very Cheshire orientated, and we do want to move more into those urban areas. We've got a nice exciting Stockport project on its way as well soon. So we are going to be doing more around there, and we do want our local MPs over there to know about us and what we stand for, and hopefully be able to give us some backing in Parliament. So those roles, I think what's going to happen is towards the end of the week, they will go up online. And if you're interested in applying for them, what you can do is just send us 200 words as to why you think you'd be a good fit for one of those roles, and why you are passionate about doing those things. So just a quick recap, we've got our wide campaigning champions who are just about spreading the words and the message as far and wide as possible. And you don't need to specifically apply for that, but we'll have a little form that if you are interested, you can fill in, and we'll add you to a list of people. And then when the time comes for a campaign, I'll probably run a little webinar to give you a sort of a first heads up of what's going to happen and what we want you to tell people about. And then the two roles that you can apply for, the campaign researcher, about networking with community groups, and then the MP sort of champion, meeting with MPs, those two roles are going to go online towards the end of the week. So with that, I think I'll hand it over to Kelly again. Thank you.
So for those of you who haven't volunteered with us, it isn't always about going out and getting your hands dirty. Sometimes it's about being the voice of the trust as well. So that's brilliant, really. And we will make sure they are live by the end of the week. So keep your eyes peeled if that's something that really interests you. You get to be the voice of Cheshire Wildlife Trust working alongside James. There is a final thing that I wanted to tell you about. As you all know, it's just over a week till Christmas. So one thing I wanted to talk about is our mini Christmas challenge. So it's called 12 Days of Wild Christmas, and it's taking place from the 25th of December to the 5th of January. And we want you to do one wild thing every day. So it's free, it's fun, and it's a great way to fill some of that really weird, strange time between Christmas and New Year when all the days kind of merge together and you just worked your way through the leftovers. So it's something that you can do on your own, it's something that you can do with family, it's something that you could do on a walk when you're out and about. You can do it inside, outside. There's lots and lots of information on the website. Now, a colleague is just about to add a link for you to sign up into the chat box. But don't worry if you don't have a chance to copy the link now. If you go to our website, there's a banner on the homepage. But like I said, it's completely free and it's just a bit of fun. So it would be really fantastic if you could get involved. I was hoping that we would have a couple of minutes left for a Q&A session at the end. Actually, we're running over. So what I will do is I'll just give you a minute or so if you want it. If you've got any questions, now is the time to just quickly bob them into the Q&A. I don't think we're going to have time to answer very many of them, but that doesn't mean that we can't take them away, go through them and include them in the email that will go out. So we are pretty much at the end of our webinar. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I know it's not quite the same as coming out and being with a group and having a bit of a chat and drinking some tea and having some cake after a really hard day achieving lots of things. I wanted you to know that we are planning for becoming a bit more COVID proof, and there is lots and lots and lots of things in the pipeline. I think we'll possibly do a webinar every sort of 6 months anyway, just to touch base, because I don't get a chance to come out and meet you all, and you don't all get a chance to hear what's going on in the bigger picture sometimes. You're all quite sometimes focused on your own projects, which isn't wrong, but it would be nice, I think, to have this. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to do these in person, but for now, I think we will continue to do webinars. But like I said, we'll send out a newsletter that will contain the link to this recording so you can share it with anyone who perhaps couldn't make it. It will answer any questions that we've had in, and also it will share some of the ideas that you gave us for us moving forward. So keep an eye out for your emails, keep an eye on the website. You can always drop me an email at volunteering at the email address that I will put into the newsletter as well. And it just leaves for me to say thank you for all your support over the year. I hope to see many of you next year, and I hope you have a really safe and happy Christmas break. Thank you.